So recording has started and I'm going to take roll. So Tommy Jewell.
Here.
Diane Layden. Here. David Montoya, we've gotten his resignation, so.
Oh, we did?
Yes. Joseph Lopez is absent.
Excused, I think he I'm not sure what he indicated.
Mr. Stewart is absent. He
What
sent his text.
did you say about Joseph Lopez?
He's absent, yeah.
He notified you
He
though.
notified us.
Okay.
Debbie Strong.
Here.
Then Debbie Dodge.
Present?
Michael Wismer was not going to be attending.
Also gave us notice.
Yes, and then
Lena
Lena
Giudice.
Giudice. Here.
Okay, and the chair will indicate that there is a quorum. Proceed with business. The first item of business is the consent agenda, calling for the approval of the September 8th, 2023 meeting minutes. You all have received the proposed minutes. Is there a motion?
Go ahead.
No.
I make the motion that we accept the minutes as written.
I'll second.
Moved and properly seconded. Any deletions, additions, or corrections? Hearing none, those in favor of approval say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed in the same manner? Hearing none, the September 8th meeting minutes will stand approved. Next on the agenda is public comment. I understand from Annette that we had no one sign up to make public comment. Is there anybody?
Whoa.
Sneaking in the back door.
I was gonna say, that's probably the quickest public comment that we've had. I'm impressed.
You
Wow.
came in right in cue too.
Yeah, really.
Guys, I was helping. There was legal issues downstairs.
We appreciate that.
I don't have anybody waiting in the queue.
Okay, so I don't think we have anybody for public comment. Let me again just start. If there's somebody that isn't identified on the internet, please speak up. Otherwise, we'll move on. Hearing none, we'll move on. Sheriff's comment. We have under Sheriff's comment, update on Sheriff's behavioral health with Diane Dosal, and I believe she's on the Zoom team.
There she is.
Hi,
There she
Diane.
is. Thank you, and the floor is yours, Diane.
We
Unmute.
can't hear you.
Can't hear.
I'm under the weather, so I
Oh,
apologize.
dear.
Well, we appreciate you being concerned with our health, pardon me, and hope that yours is good, notwithstanding the fact that you're under the weather. So please.
Yeah, no, thank you. I was able to meet with a couple of your board members to talk about what's been going on concerning behavioral health and the expansion of our behavioral health unit. I'm assuming that everyone got the update from Diane that she wrote out. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, we have it
For
for
the report, is that
for
what
the
we're talking
report,
about?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it was put in there.
Okay, great. So just to add on top of that is I remember mentioning in the past that we have a strong partnership with the Care Campus. To me, that's something I'm pretty proud of with our office because most recently they had a fundraiser for some of their clients that they're helping with supportive housing and detox and so on. And they invited the sheriff's office, which is something new. They've never done that before, to help out with a fundraiser. And it was like a cornhole tournament. And some of the funds went towards the funding of cigarettes because, that's something that their clients like to have on staff as they're kind of hanging out and having downtime, and then just to like partner with them in general to meet some of their clients. On top of that, we're making sure that the deputies are using their services, which is detox, the living room, and that when they meet people out on calls, that they're dropping off and using those resources that Care Campus offers. Next week will be the peer support training for our officers. We're revamping that program. Currently, there's 8 officers, but now we have another 8 or 9 signed up. So we'll be expanding that so that way we can revamp our peer support program, and then our chaplain is going to be a part of that. I know that we had mentioned that our chaplain just started a few months ago, and we put him in a CIT class, peer support class, on top of the training that he already has. So that way he can offer help for not only the officers, but also for the citizens and the community when there's a crisis or a shooting or a homicide. That way he can help out with families that are in need of any services. And one major initiative that I've been working on is getting more deputies trained in CIT training on top of the 40 hours that they get in the academy. So we have about 27 more deputies that are trained in the field, and that covers graveyard, relief, which is swing, and day shift, and getting some training out to our detectives that also work in specialized units. Every single month, I'm trying to see what classes I can find so that way I could get more of the deputies trained in CIT. That's one major initiative I have. So on top of that, that's about it on in addition to what Diane and Debbie have already written out.
Well, thank you for that. Questions or comments?
Yeah, my question would be, what types of things are you introducing to these trainings that start addressing like some of the diversity, equity, and inclusion issues? So, you know, how to serve those underserved communities and doing those types of things.
Well,
And
we work with
let me interrupt and just say, if that's a longer explanation than would fit in our agenda, that's something that you can supply to the committee too. I don't know how long an answer that is.
Well, what I can tell you is that there's already a set curriculum by our own public safety PSPG team. But it's funny you mentioned that because I've actually been working with the group now already for DEI training for our behavioral health unit. Right now they're coming in as a vendor and we're getting that paperwork situated. But they will be giving a 4-hour class to our behavioral health unit, and then we're going to expand from there. We just need to make sure that they can tailor the training specific to law enforcement and some of the issues that deputies have to encounter in the field. They're going to go on some ride-alongs and try to make sure that the training is relative on top of, you know, what they already do. So it's just kind of a coincidence that you're mentioning that. So we anticipate that training to take place in the next few weeks. So hopefully that information helps. But as far as like what our 40-hour training goes, that's already a set curriculum through PSPG. And that's also approved by the state.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Anything from the committee, Dr. Layden? Or?
No, we had a great visit with her,
Okay.
and they're doing a great job.
All right.
The vice chair had her hand
I'm sorry, Vice Chair Strongin.
Hi, Diane. I just wanted to double check to make sure that some of the information in the write-up that's going into the annual report is current, because it says in here that a chaplain would be hired, but you've said a chaplain is already in place at this point. So that's
correct.
and that's okay. And that chaplain is part of the sheriff's office, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So
Okay.
full-time chaplain He reports directly to Under Sheriff Daniel.
Mhm.
I'm helping to get him some training that's relative to also crisis intervention and behavioral health. But with that, he
Fine.
working alongside with the BCFD chaplain, Sherry. So they're going to work in
Uh-huh.
part together to make sure that they can meet the needs of the community.
Okay, thanks. And just one other thing, it said that I guess the BCSO was in the process of hiring forensic case managers and I just wondered that I guess background checks were being done. I don't necessarily think we need to put the background check part in the report, but have those been hired at this point? Those in those positions?
No, they're still under,
Yeah.
excuse me, they are still under backgrounds. That process
Okay.
takes a while.
Okay.
So we are, pardon me, we are at the end of that process. So we anticipate by the end of next week that we would be officially offering those positions.
Okay.
Yeah, but we
Great.
had 4 in background. One of them might not work out, which still leaves us with the 3 open positions that we had.
All right, thanks. That's helpful. And I guess the members of the subcommittee will follow up with any updates as they occur. We can just update the report.
Okay,
All right, thank you. I feel
sure.
better.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Diane? Sheriff's Office, period. Own representative today. Diane, we sure appreciate you being with us, even though you're under the weather, and certainly we want you to get your rest. So if you want to
Take
bail out on us, please feel free to. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. One last thing. I know that the sheriff has asked that he's attached to all the emails, but if you ever have any questions or anything at all, I mean, do not hesitate to email me. I could get you any current information that you might need. And it's very easy for me to respond to an email.
Diane, I appreciate your offer in that respect, but I'm not sure how that comports with what the sheriff told us at a different meeting, that he wanted everything specifically to go through him.
Right.
So I'm not sure.
Yes,
It
if
would,
you send an email to him and
And
then
copy Diane, yeah.
yes.
okay, I'm not sure that's what he was, I didn't hear the whole thing because I was on Zoom for that meeting. So I'll check with the other people who were at that meeting to see if that's in line with what they're understanding. I actually thought that what he wanted was for everything to just go to him, and he would he would copy it to whoever, but I could be wrong.
And Diane, if you want to find out and let us know, that would be fine too.
Sure thing.
Okay.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Take care.
Again, thank you.
Okay. Thank you,
Please
everyone.
feel free to
Thank you.
take off.
Thanks,
Okay.
Diane.
You got people clapping. That's
Feel
right.
better.
Goodbye.
All right, so I believe that will complete the sheriff's office comment. Item 6 on the agenda is old business. It's a review, comment, and approval of draft 3 of the 2023 annual report. And our Vice Chair Strongin will lead a discussion about where we are with the annual report.
Well, I've heard from 3 other members of the of our board who aren't, well, Tommy is part of the annual report subcommittee, and Jim Stewart and I have all signed off on what's in this report as of now. And Michael Wismer also got in touch and said he didn't have any changes. So the only person who was on the subcommittee that I hadn't heard from was Elena. And then I don't know if other people here have other comments. I got a couple of comments from Diane Layden. One was a word that was dropped and I've added that word. So I would just ask anybody who's got something to say to please say it.
Debbie Dodge?
I guess I thought and maybe we're gonna do it at this meeting or before we turn in this report. I don't have an objection to any of the recommendations, but we said we were gonna bring them to the board and vote on them before they became.
And that's what this
Recommended.
is.
Yeah,
That's exactly what is being done right now.
right, so that's what I'm asking about. Are we gonna vote on these things or should we
Well-
wait till everybody's here or?
I would say that we can discuss it today, but I would like to wait only because I'm not that comfortable with so many people absent, making anything really final. We've always pretty much acted unanimously on the annual reports we've done so far. So I think it would be better to have more of the board present if that's possible. Now that we're only an 8-member board, there is the possibility of having a tie on something. So I don't know exactly what happens in that case, but anyway, anyone else have any?
I do.
Dr. Layden's got a hand up.
Hi there. Hi, Debbie. I sent you a message with 2 comments. I'd like to repeat them. This is about page 15 with the recommendations to the county commission. First, in section 3 and the upper part of page 15, you refer the commission to the SOARB's 2022 recommendations. If you don't wish to summarize those for the commission, can you give them the link to the 2022 report if they want to look at that?
I don't know where that link would even be.
Okay, I'm on page 15, if I'm not mistaken.
No, I'm saying I don't know where a link is to the 2022
Well, there-
report. The
if you go to
commissioners
the
have
home-
it.
If you go
I
to the
don't have it.
Dosal website and you look for the 2022 annual report, there will be a link to the annual report that we could give the county commission when we refer to items in SOP have been updated in line with SOARB's 2022 recommendations. So if you can give them the link to that report, if they're interested, they could look it up.
Is that something you can furnish, Dana?
It's kind of a vague reference. That was my response to it.
So Deb, I have a question, talking about what Diane is speaking about. So if we're referring back to recommendations that were in the past one, are we going to, for this year's recommendations, include those recommendations from 2022 and add additional recommendations that have not been finished, completed, or are in process of getting completed? Or are we just going to refer to the 2022 report but not include any of those recommendations from that year, right?
Well, that's up to this board. I didn't have anything to recommend other than what's in there. One of the recommendations to BCS, to the commission, came from Michael Wismer to continue funding the resources for BCSO to continue to update its crime statistic reporting. But that's, other than what's in there, I don't have any other recommendations that anyone else has suggested.
Yeah,
So I guess-
and I don't know, pardon me.
No, go ahead.
I don't know that those 2022 recommendations are still germane. We're in a
Right,
different
that's what I
place.
said, we need to
If
review
we need
those.
to review them,
Yeah.
then
Mhm.
perhaps we should do that. And see if any of them need to be repeated or reported on.
Or have been
Right.
completed and we can,
They don't need to put them in there. Yeah.
or we can say that they were completed. I mean,
Well, that's what this says. It says items in SOP have been updated in line with SOARB's 2022 recommendations.
Yeah,
But I don't know what that means.
And help us with that, Debbie, but I'm thinking that that might refer to some of the issues that came up towards it, like the symbols on the car and so forth, that the sheriff basically took ownership of and said, we're not gonna do it that way, we're gonna change, and this is the way we're gonna do it. So
Right.
do we need some reporting on that, or are we
I-
pretty much done with that?
To me, to my way of looking at it, we're done with it. The sheriff went through with us how he was going to approach every single one of our recommendations. And I don't know what more we can ask for. I think that, I just don't know what else.
And if I'm
we wanna
understanding Elena's question, it's not that we need to ask for anything more.
Mhm.
Moreover, it's that we need to say, well, this is what happened.
Right, the link to the 2022 report, that's all I'm suggesting, is that we have that link. That link is available on the burnco.gov website.
Yeah, but maybe we're not gonna approve all those.
Well, this is from 2022.
Yes.
I know, but if we're not gonna recommend that again, we don't need to have the link.
I guess she's saying there's a reference to that report
Right.
There's
there.
a reference to the report to the county commission. And my thought is just put a link in there, so if they want to check.
Even if it's a footnote, I don't have any objection to that. Madam Vice Chair, do you object?
No, not at all.
Okay.
As
It's
long as
just
I
in-
can figure out how to do the link, which
Well,
I think Jeanette can help me with.
us with that. I mean, even if it's a footnote, we can footnote that and say the 2022 report can be found here. I
Right.
think that's the only thing that's being
But we don't know
suggested.
that we're actually gonna do all those. Here it says that we still recommend those in 2022, so we're gonna review those to make
Well,
sure that.
updated in line with. See, I don't know what that means. Items in SOP have been updated in line with SOARB's 2022 recommendations. I don't know what that means, but at least.
Well,
if you
look at
give
the
the link,
2022 recommendations. And then-
Exactly, and so Dr. Layden is saying, let's
Give
give
them
them
a
a
link.
reference to the 2022 report.
Right.
So
No
no big
problem.
deal.
Thank you.
And so Debbie Dodge, we're not talking about
Right.
having to re-adopt anything. We're just clarifying
Yeah,
for the county commission
Right.
where that report is that's referenced in the current report. Okay?
Right.
So.
I have one further comment on the annual report, and I sent this to you in a message also. Last year, this matter came up with the feeling that you had written things in the annual report that we all hadn't agreed to, and your comment on the takedown by the sheriff and the overwhelmingly, the different views of that incident. I don't think this board was unanimous that what the sheriff did was just right. And I wrote to you about this, about a comment Jim Stewart made. I remember Elena mentioning, I don't know if she was speaking for herself or someone else, that there was a question of whether the sheriff's takedown was a chokehold. Okay, and so now there were at least two comments I heard at the last meeting that weren't wholly positive about the sheriff's takedown of that person. So I think when you write in the report, that, okay, here, let me get to your wording. Okay, they differ widely, the sheriff was widely praised and so on. The two negative comments about this incident, which were in sharp contrast to the overwhelming community approval of the sheriff's actions. I feel like you're editorializing here. And this matter came up last year when we did the annual report. So I'm just wondering if you could just end your how did I put it?
Diane, one thing, without interrupting you, but I did write back to you as far as Jim Stewart. Jim Stewart is a member of the committee of the annual report subcommittee, and he specifically has approved every single thing that is in this report, including that. So I don't know that, your sense that he didn't approve of something is is not accurate.
No, I
Um,
think. my
As far as
suggestion is
Elena,
accurate.
and in
No,
addition,
please, let's not argue. Let's not argue. If you don't want my suggestion, you don't need to take my suggestion. But I know what Jim Stewart said to me at the meeting, and I know what Elena
and-
said, and
and-
she just nodded to me about it.
Let-
So not everybody
Let me
is,
do this if I might, Dr. Lee.
please.
I think what we've agreed is that we will have a vote on the substantive recommendations and or language of the report. And so without, too much more on this, it seems to me if you have difficulty with that language and
I
others
don't
of
think
us.
it's quite accurate
Okay,
to say that there was a sharp contrast
so it seems
between
to
the
me
negative and the
what
positive.
might be helpful is, as I think you were doing, if you have some substitute language that you want the board to vote on, that we have that ready when we take a vote on the report. And if
Okay.
you have it now, we can take note of it.
No, I'll send it out.
Okay.
and
I
may
guess-
also, as a reminder, our recommendations do not have to be unanimous. It has to
No.
be a majority, and anybody who disagrees has the right to do a minority report. So keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that we discussed last year, is that there are times that not everybody is here. And so we discuss an issue, we go through that issue, and it's kind of determined at that point in time at that meeting. And then when someone may not have been at that meeting, go, hey, wait, there's a problem, then it means either we pull it back out and rediscuss it,
Okay.
or have the opportunity, like we talked about, and what she just mentioned, is having, a descending position, so to speak, that says,
Yeah.
this is how we feel. And I think that's fair, so
Yeah.
that they can get the idea of
And let
what
me
it
just, let me
is.
just say this, I don't think that we received so many comments that, I think Dr. Layden's comment was, well, I think you're editorializing, Deb. We probably can with precision say what the split was in terms of comments coming into the board. I don't know if anybody, Dr. Layden perhaps has kept track of how many comments were favorable and how many were not, but it seems to me that we can take stock of that and with precision describe what we received.
I'll get in touch with Danette about the number of comments we received. There were
Okay.
actually 4 negative comments about the sheriff, but 2 may have been about other matters than the takedown.
Okay,
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, exactly, that there was one comment by a woman who clearly had not written the letter, because she's not a law enforcement person, and yet she was writing as a law enforcement officer, I believe. So that letter was very possibly written by the officer involved in the incident, or somebody, writing for that person. But that woman, so that's one that was negative. Then there was one from Mr. Rayel. Then there was an anonymous one. And then there were at least 2 positive comments by people who's, that were not anonymous. And that's all I'm aware of.
Okay, well, let's review those comments. And I'll,
they're there in the
suggest some
record and
language
we can
next
take note of them,
Thank you.
as our vice chair has ably done there.
But I do want to bring up a point, because I know that we had said we wanted to discuss. Now, I know I received, and I was thinking it was from this group, but I had received a lot of information on what a chokehold is, how it's applied, when it should be applied, when it should never be applied, those types of things. So I got, with the whole diagram and everything, did everybody receive that? Because
I think that was something that Jim Stewart provided to
yeah, I
us.
think so.
So,
And so,
Um,
and I thought it was realistic. At the time, one of the things we said was we wanted a comment from the sheriff about that particular incident. And because a chokehold in the sheriff's department requires some type of discipline, because they're not allowed. And yet,
You are allowed. That's not
Well-
correct.
you know, well,
Let me say this, and perhaps we'll discuss this as the vice chair and I attempt to report on the meeting that we had with Sheriff Allen in the company of staff. Some things we are not going to get a comment from the sheriff on. And I think that's one of the things he makes clear from that meeting is sometimes there are liability concerns. And I keep pointing to Daniel. Daniel, poor guy, has the responsibility both to the sheriff and to this board. And so I think if I were to summarize from that meeting, we should not expect that the sheriff is gonna own that there was a chokehold involved in that or say otherwise.
That's just someone's opinion that there was a choke.
Right, and so, I mean, it's nice that we are now illuminated with respect to the general use of or prohibition of use of chokeholds, but it may not have application to this situation. That is a matter that may be litigated, and certainly counsel for the sheriff and for the board may have problems with us, with the sheriff, I should say. What we do is what we do. But with the sheriff saying, well, you know, I didn't do that, or I did do that, or whatever. Debbie?
Yeah, I mean, the sheriff did provide us with a witness statement, which is a public record. That is always, you know, this is just the law enforcement officer's report of what happened that goes along with the case file, and that we have been provided. So that's his statement, and I don't think that, I don't think we can ask for anything beyond that.
I think we can ask. I think,
Yeah.
I don't think we should have the expectation that he's gonna answer. That's
Right.
my takeaway, Debbie. Okay.
and
Counsel, you agree?
I do.
that
No,
being
wait a minute.
said,
We're not getting you married here. You said
I do agree with
Okay,
but
anyway.
I do agree with what you had said. And so I imagine you're gonna update us on this meeting that you and Deb had.
And certainly call on others who may have been at the meeting to provide their insight. I'm a poor record keeper, but certainly one of my takeaways was that in terms of a change in the interaction with the sheriff, we can expect less from him. And so, you know, some of it was just basically an airing. And I hate to get into that right now and be out of order on the agenda that I'm
But it's
charged.
on the agenda to talk about it?
I don't know that it is, but it would be a report.
Okay,
And so I intended to update you all with
On that.
respect to that meeting.
okay, so when we get to that, then
Okay.
it would be great to discuss that, because I do think the chokehold piece is important, and it certainly got a lot of feedback. I got a lot of feedback from different people, many of the underserved communities who have had, perhaps had an experience. And so I think what the idea is just better understanding of what that is. Jim sent us that, so it was Jim that sent us that information, which I thought was really good. And, just better understanding of what that means. And then we can talk about the other stuff later.
Okay, anything else on that? Hearing nothing on that, anything else annual report wise, Vice Chair Strongin?
Again, I'm just waiting for feedback from you all.
And of
So,
course, you and I have discussed the fact that I have not put together a forward yet. One of
Right.
the things we were waiting on was the meeting with the sheriff. We've had that. And so, I mean, if you all have thoughts on how this report ought to be forwarded by your chair, I'm certainly willing to hear those.
I don't have I want to make a comment that she asked for something from me, so, go ahead.
Okay, you want to make a comment on the
Well, no,
report?
she asked for a report from me about a committee, but I had sent you something about the new members, that we didn't have any meetings, nothing has happened.
Orientation wise, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so you asked me to comment, but I had sent you something, an email about that on new member orientation.
I didn't ask you to comment on it. I think
I thought you
last
had-
year,
I-
last year, you and a couple of other board members, you came up with an orientation program, and so that wasn't even discussed in this one, I don't think, was it?
I thought you asked for a report on there. I'll look again.
Yeah, I think maybe it was just listed that you were on that subcommittee, but I don't
After
think,
to the report, that there may be nothing, but we may be in the circumstance of needing
Yeah.
some orientation pretty soon
Pretty
here.
soon,
So
yeah.
stay tuned.
So are we gonna?
right, it's just, the only reference that I'm seeing is orientation for new SOARB members, and that subcommittee was you, Debbie Dodge, Mr. Lopez, and Mr. Stewart. And
Right.
that's who makes up that committee, but there's nothing to report other than what was done last year,
Okay, all right.
as far as I know. If you have something and you want it specified,
don't.
please let me know.
So my question would be, the report is supposed to conclude by the end of December, so it's prepared for the beginning of January, is that?
Well, we presented
No.
at the first meeting of the
In
county
January,
commission in
right?
January.
So then,
And so we'd like to have it done, and the vice chair can speak to our timetable here.
because I was thinking November would then be when we talk about all the things that have been brought up here and everything, and then make those final decisions about the report for November, so it can be completed in December. Is that what you were thinking, Deb?
No, actually, what I was thinking was that we would finalize what we have now, or have, definitive comments or decisions on what's in there as of now, subject to updates, new occurrences, or anything that was not agreed to, but that's not going to happen today. So I think it has to happen in November at our November meeting.
Right,
Because this thing,
Vice Chair, if I'm understanding you, you expressed discomfort in moving forward with the vote without other
Mhm.
members being here.
Right.
Is that right?
well, yeah, because we now have half of our board is not here.
Okay, so we're not gonna vote now.
Well, not half, but basically half.
Okay.
3/8.
Three. I want to be the third.
Talking about precision. Okay.
40%.
Oh, wow.
3/8.
Math. Okay, and so.
November?
37.5%.
Then if we anticipate voting in November. Let's see, this says November 10 and 24 are county holidays. So what are, if we meet on a Friday, what's our potential
Those 2 dates
opportunity?
are-
Those
The
2 dates are gone.
17th, can we meet the 17th?
There's another option, I suppose, that I don't know the particulars of this, but we could get together for a work session as we tried to do last year. And that doesn't have quite the restraints of these meetings, but as far as public notice and so on. But I don't know if we can vote on anything at
I
a
would think
work
not. I
session.
don't know, Daniel, what's your position on that? If we're gonna vote on the report, it probably needs to be done in open.
Yes,
Yes.
for the adoption, yes.
So I don't think we want to anticipate, a work session is fine. It sounds like some stuff may need to be ironed out. But in terms of a final vote, we want that at a regular meeting, at
Mhm.
which we may be subject to some public comment and otherwise.
So
So-
last year, you guys did a special meeting in November,
Yes.
and then you voted for it in December, and then I got
Right.
it to commission agenda approval in December for a January meeting.
And just to piggyback off of that, you could hold a full meeting, just say there will not be a public comment, and then all you do is work on it. That way there is no interruptions and just go straight through.
Does it?
So
does that
then I think what would make sense then is if we can have a work session meeting and all but finalize the report, because we can't vote at that meeting, but we can certainly find out who is in agreement, who is not, what needs to be changed, and then at the meeting for that month, actually vote on it. I mean, I don't know any other way to get this done in time. So then we
Okay,
have to
so-
figure out a date that everyone could get together, and, you know, that could certainly be sometime in early November before the next meeting, which I don't know when we're gonna have that since we're coming up with holidays.
Well, we're limited by two holidays.
And
Yeah.
we have some elections, too, on the, so I just want to bring that up as well, so. And I know I'm busy doing some of those, helping and supporting during that process.
How about having our meeting on November 17th?
That seems to be the only date
Yeah.
that's
And it
realistic.
gives us enough time from this meeting.
Okay,
Okay,
and we haven't really gotten to that place on the agenda, but that's fine. I mean,
okay,
so we can anticipate that November 17 will be the next public meeting.
okay.
If you want a work session, it's gonna have to be before that. It doesn't,
Right.
if I'm understanding, it doesn't have to be on a Friday. And it can be.
No, it doesn't have to be on a Friday. We could have it on the 9th, November 9th. That's a Thursday, or the 8th.
The 7th is elections
Mhm.
of November.
Or that next week before the 13th or 14th.
So you have the 7th, the 10th, and the 24th that are not available.
Okay,
So I don't know, what about either November 8th or 9th or 14th and 5th or 15th? So that would be a Wednesday and a Thursday, or a Tuesday and a Wednesday.
I work on Wednesday, Thursdays, so.
Okay, so
you
Tuesday,
work on Wednesday and Thursday.
okay, Tuesday,
So I
the,
mean, those are the 2 days of the week that discussing. So you're saying you're not available on either of those?
on
days?
Wednesday or
I
Thursday.
could do Tuesday.
How's Tuesday?
Not
Tuesday the
So that would be the 14th.
Not for
November
me,
14th.
but you can
Oh.
have it without me.
Well, no.
And take out the 23rd too.
How about-
The 23rd.
How
Hey,
about
we're gonna
Zoom?
need
Is
a
there Zoom
room.
availability?
Well, when I'm at the office, Zooming is not as
Look,
difficult.
frowned upon.
Well, yeah, people come in my office, they want to do stuff.
Have you been Zooming? Tough workplace discussion there.
So.
We also have to find out if the people who aren't here can make
Right,
that date.
yeah, so we'll have
So
to figure something out.
that's another problem.
All right, let me make an executive call then and let's just tentatively say the 9th,
The 9th.
all right? And,
Wait, then Debbie Dodge, you can't come on the 9th, which is a Thursday?
And what time would it be?
If we made it later, would it be better for you?
If it was in the evening, but people don't want to do the evening
No,
probably.
not in the evening. Let's-
Yeah. You know, I can try and carve out some time. Yeah, just set it and I'll figure out.
okay, let's anticipate our usual time and the primary mode of meet be electronic.
So we're all gonna Zoom, we're not gonna meet here.
I don't even know. In the room.
Could I just say that I think, you know, as far as actually sitting down and working on a document, it's probably easier if we can all sit down in the same room and have the document
See if
in
you
front
get
of us.
can get us a space then
Agreed.
for the 9th.
Actually, if we can put it up on the screen.
Is that
the
gonna be our
documents on the
special
screen.
meeting?
Yeah, that's just
Yes.
special, no vote.
Because we have to get that out on the
No vote
website.
and no
Yeah, just get it
public,
out before.
no vote, no public comment, right?
Yes.
Just special meeting.
Mm.
There will
Yeah.
be no,
No
Are
voting.
members of, oh, sorry, are members of the public allowed to attend that meeting? No.
special meeting?
So, and it doesn't does it need
So
to
we
be
have to get notice of-
recorded?
You have to get noted. If
Okay,
the
so
full
yeah,
board be there, yes.
public can be there.
No comment.
Oh,
I mean, you
No
know,
comment.
public could be here. We're not having problems with
There's no comment.
disruption by the public.
You can do it in meeting here, just that the public,
Okay,
and that way there's no interruptions.
are you hearing that, Debbie?
no, I didn't hear that, sorry.
The mode of required public participation and or presence would be electronic. We would be able to meet in person
Mhm.
and electronically.
Right.
And 1 o'clock, I guess, would be my proposed time. And so November 9, 1 p.m. And then we have our regular meeting on the 17th, at which we would anticipate voting on the final product,
We're saying November 9th, not the 14th?
saying November 9.
For the
Nice.
special meeting.
For the special meeting.
Is that okay, Debbie?
It's
Yeah.
not okay for Debbie,
Okay.
but she's gonna make it okay.
I'll make it okay.
Okay,
All right.
November
Maybe.
9th. Okay.
All right, and maybe Danette, can you send an email to the people who aren't at this meeting today to find out if they can work out that, if that time works for them? Because if not, then, we can hopefully find a time that works for at least the majority of the board. I mean, not
If-
just a
if not-
quorum, but,
If not, Debbie, I think they need to anticipate, they need to get to you or somebody, whatever changes they want, and we can vote on the 17th.
Okay.
We can discuss on the 9th, whatever those changes are.
okay,
So they need to arm us with whatever they're proposing or whatever they think is amiss, so that we can discuss it on the 9th to vote on the 17th.
Do we need to make a motion to change the meeting to the 17th? Or not?
Vote at the
Yeah,
end like we always do.
yeah, probably under
Alright.
item 9, but you can anticipate that that's what that will be, and be ready to vote on it. So I think that concludes the discussion on the annual report. Madam Vice Chair, do you have something else?
with just an update from Diane Dosal, who just emailed me that she spoke with the sheriff, and he does want everything to go to him. And he will send it out as he deems appropriate, but not anything directly to her. So as generous as she is with her time, that is how the sheriff prefers to do things.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you for relaying that clarification. Thank you for bringing it up.
And I'm
Thank
wondering if maybe we should send out a memo, especially for people who aren't here today, but just in general to the board,
Right.
saying that the sheriff prefers and this is how it's to be done, is any communication with anybody at BCSO is to go to the sheriff, and he will then decide what, if anything, should be done with it.
Well, your discussion of it can be a part of the minutes. I don't know that we need to send a memo on that. If he wants
Okay,
more communication on that to appear from us, I think he can memo us and
okay,
publish that. I have difficulty restraining anybody's access to the sheriff. As a board, you all have elected me as chair, and it seems appropriate for me to reach out to the sheriff. And some of you have relationships,
Right.
and so I'm not gonna interfere with that. But you shouldn't be communicating on behalf of the SOARB with individuals in the chain of the sheriff's command. That should come from me to him. And so if there's nothing else on the annual report, Debbie, again, thanks as you have done in the past for shepherding this effort. And I expect that the product will be as good as it has been in the past. I know that you've taken pains to shorten it. You certainly have my appreciation on that, and I anticipate the appreciation of the commissioners. And so, again, thank you for all your effort on the report. And hopefully we'll have that ironed out the 9th through the 17th. And so if that's it on that, we'll go into new business. Item 7A is a discussion of how the board will address public comments received from the public speaker / link, comments link, and how they become a part of the board's minutes. I think at the last meeting, there was a subcommittee that was focused on that, if I'm.
No,
No, I don't remember.
no, we didn't have a committee. We
I
just
thought it
tabled
was,
it.
No.
I thought it was Joseph Lopez, Dr.
And
Layden
you,
and Elena. And let me just propose this in the absence of them having met us. Maybe we just need to go ahead and reference the comments by date and number. So, comments that are received today would be 10/31/2023-1. And at least for reference purposes, we have a way of keeping track of them. I think that's the only thing that was intended there. I think the discussion came out of Dr. Layden's concern that we were adopting public comments that perhaps were not accurate. And so that led to the discussion. What we get in terms of public comment is what we get.
I think part of the discussion too was whether or not if we were going to publish public comments that were anonymous or just those who had signed off on them, because apparently there were a number of public comments that were anonymous that,
And let me just say that staff, Danette was good enough to get something out to us that clarified the process of publication of comments. And they go through it's not the county manager, what's
chief of operations.
chief of operations. And so they get published regardless of what we do with them in that manner. So I don't think we have any control to keep them from some form of publication. And certainly we're not adopting them unless we decide to adopt them.
I'm looking at the minutes and it said that Joseph and Elena will work on something to address public comments and a checkoff list. So, I mean, I guess we said we were getting all these comments, but we weren't addressing any comments. So we were gonna make a list and say that we received if we have no comment about this, or we can't, I don't know.
Received and review, or we're
Yeah,
not
that's what we
gonna-
were talking about.
out of our
and
scope
then
or
bring them
whatever
up
you
to
guys.
the
Yeah, so
general.
since you and Joseph are gonna work on that, present.
My name being mentioned.
I don't
And we're-
remember that either.
Well, here in the minutes.
Okay, so then
It's also
Joseph
recorded
and I,
too.
you know, I mean, we can certainly, I'll try to reach out.
So
I think the thought was that you would go through and be like, we're gonna address, or we're gonna review, or we read it, but there's nothing we
Each
can do, or
I mean, each
Well-
month or?
whenever you get them.
May I get some clarification on what we're doing now? When we get these public comments, do we attach all of them to our minutes? Is that what we're doing now? Is the public now receiving these public comments attached? to
If you
our
vote
minutes?
for them to be attached to the minutes, yes.
Have we voted for them to be
You voted
attached
for
in the
the-
past?
Last ones, the first ones that we got a bunch of.
In the past, we've done that.
That's what you did.
Okay.
The last
So
three.
if we vote for them, public comments will be attached. My concern is anonymous public comments, and I brought this up last time and I gave the example of the Albuquerque Journal that doesn't publish letters to the editor unless they know who they're from and the contact information and all that. I still feel strongly we shouldn't be publishing anonymous public comments, that we can receive anonymous public comments. But there's this other part of this too, and that is that we tell the public that we're not responsible for the veracity of the public comments we receive that are attached to the minutes of the claims made in the public comments. I don't want the board, this is my objection, to be in the position of helping to trash the sheriff through anonymous public comments, okay, that he can't address because he doesn't know who they're from. So I feel there are two things here. One, I think we should tell the public that we can't vouch for the veracity of public comments that are attached to the minutes of our meetings. And second, that we don't publish anonymous public comments. The public is welcome to send us comments anonymously, but we're not going to post them. We're not going to attach them to our minutes unless they're signed. Now, I think I think that's a reasonable thing to do. I'm trying to protect the integrity of the board. That's what I'm thinking. People may not agree. I accept that.
Is that in the form of a motion?
I so move. I move that we attach to our minutes only those public comments that are signed.
Well, we're not attaching, I'm sorry to interrupt you as you
Okay.
make your motion. We're not attaching them unless we vote to attach them.
Okay, we vote to attach them. So I move that we vote to attach only those public comments that are signed to our minutes, and that we inform the public then two things. One, we will receive anonymous public comments, but we won't attach them to our minutes for public viewing unless they're signed. Okay? And second, that we can't vouch for the veracity of the public comments that are attached to our minutes. That we're not making a claim in behalf of the veracity.
Heard the motion, is there a second?
I have a question.
If
It's-
there's not a second, then there's probably not a discussion of the motion. Do you want a second and put it on the floor for discussion?
No, I don't want to second it. No.
Okay. Anybody want to second the motion?
You don't want to do this. You just want to keep doing what we're doing.
What we're doing is voting to see if we want to attach minutes. So if we
Okay.
don't,
If
So
we want to
it's
attach
meeting.
comments to minutes,
Okay, so we'll take it up at each meeting when there are public
Mm-hmm.
comments.
Yeah, I think that, and because
looks like we're
it sounds
discussing
like it
anyway.
already is, regardless of how we feel. Once it becomes a public comment, it goes up on the,
oh,
No, we
it
have to
doesn't.
vote.
So let me,
not
No,
to ours.
let's
but
let
to
her
the
just
group,
explain
right?
the
so let me
process.
explain how it works. I know you guys are thinking public comments, so it's public. So what happens is when every board posts their agenda, that agenda goes out, right, to the whole, like,
Right.
public publishers, the
right.
news media, they have a whole thing
Right.
that goes out to. Then they open up for public comment and or to sign up to speak
Right.
to that meeting.
Right.
So that's attached to the meeting. The meeting is December 1st. Public comment is open for the December 1st meeting.
Mhm.
That only goes per, and these are rules that supersede you, that goes to the actual chief operations, chief of operations. She disseminates it to the boards. I don't see other boards. She's the only one that sees everything, even the county commission.
Mhm.
From there, because that's how it's written in the county commission rules. From there, then it goes to us to give to the board, and let them know that these comments came out, and they need to address them. From there, commission or you guys could do one or two things. Out of our scope, we're not gonna address this. Delegate it to someone else to address it. Like, a lot of times the county commission will be like, Madam County Manager, this is in your scope, can you address this or give us some response into this comment?
Mhm.
And then they go from there. Those stay within that forum. So they're not out for everybody to see because it's only for each board. It's not public comment to the whole
So
board.
it's just that particular. we
It's
only
just a
sort of people.
vehicle for
Yeah.
people to address boards that meet on certain topics.
So
Okay.
once she sees it and she disseminates it to other,
To
Board.
whoever the liaison is.
right?
yeah.
Now, she's disseminating it always, or she disseminates to whom she believes?
She disseminates all of it. It's a
Okay.
database, so we can see it.
Right.
But it's, with that being said, it's all done, but people would have to,
But it's not, they're not posted online.
yeah, they're not,
Right.
they're not,
posted.
Okay.
right.
They're only disseminated to board,
Right,
you, and then you
to-
disseminate it to
To
us.
all the other
But they're not
boards that
posted
are
online
existing,
anymore.
right?
Mhm.
No one else sees
And
it.
Yeah, there's
they
like
don't
25
post
boards.
them, the
Okay,
only people
But then
that,
we have to vote at each meeting whether to attach the public comments to the minutes.
And
But
that's
you
what we always do.
You don't have to attach all the public comments. You can only attach the ones that you're
But you
reviewing.
choose to.
You could say, such and such comment came in, we need a review, and we're referring to the comment that has to do with should dogs be on a leash or not. I'm
Yeah.
just giving an example. I couldn't think of anything off the top of my
I
head.
think it's a movie.
Right, and you could even put that as your posting for the comment. It doesn't have to be the whole comment. We got a
So you
concern
can-
from citizen about dogs in the park on a leash, and we are going to review this comment to see if we want to advise on it, period. And that could be part of the minutes. And or you could attach the whole comment. Depends how you.
It's our choice, yeah.
So
Yeah,
at
so
what
we know
point
that
in
they're not
time do we
published
review
anyway.
those comments? Do we review, see, that was what I was wondering.
So that's what your
they're like.
checkoff
Is that-
list was gonna do. So you could just go, we received a comment,
Okay.
it's out of our scope, it's anonymous, and we can't even address it anyways because
Okay.
it's not in our scope. That way, the public knows. So if your checkoff list could be part of the minutes, not the
Right.
full comments. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
right.
it depends how you guys, now Jim Stewart was gonna work on process from what I remember last time, and you and
Joseph.
Joseph were gonna work on a checkoff list. So you can even just attach the checkoff list.
Maybe we can talk to Jim.
To show, because I think your concern was to show the public that you're at least acknowledging, reading,
That we did get the
and
comment.
either you're gonna move forward with them, or you can't move forward with them,
Or not
or
addressing it.
out of your scope.
Right, but the
That
other
comment
side
was received.
of that discussion is with what Dr. Layton said was, should anonymous even be reviewed? And I
That's,
think that's a decision that we need to, you know,
Should it even be reviewed?
yeah. is-
I don't mind if we receive anonymous comments.
She just says.
My concern is that somehow we're attaching them to minutes for the public to read when we can't
Or
testify to the
yeah.
veracity of the anonymous comments. And what I see happening is that people may use this board, and we had a couple of anonymous comments about the firing that took place. I think of the guy with the taser in the mountains. Okay, there were anonymous comments, and now this board forum is being used to trash the sheriff.
But we don't
over
publish
that.
those. They're not published anywhere.
I'm
Well,
glad
the
to hear
idea
this.
is, are they going to be? Because if we put them,
With the minutes, then they are
then
published.
they are posted.
But then we'll vote on that per
Each-
occurrence.
Well, we
Each
better
occurrence,
know
yeah.
what we're doing when we vote
So-
after a public comment comes in.
So Elena, you've taken some notes, and if you would convene that subcommittee in
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
contact with Jim Stewart.
Exactly, to
I, at the beginning of this
have that
discussion,
decision and discussion.
suggested some form of numbering system. It would be helpful if that happened as well. Oh, you have a hand up? Strong.
Yeah, a couple of things. First of all, just because somebody puts a name on an email doesn't mean that that's their real name.
Yeah.
And we've gotten comments like that, so they're essentially anonymous. So I don't think we can say that any comment is actually from a person who, I mean, we're not attesting to the veracity of any comment that's made to us by considering it. We're, these are just things that people give us, unless somebody actually comes into a meeting and speaks. We don't know who, anybody can create an email address with any name they want. So I'm not sure about the distinction between anonymous and not anonymous. I don't think we know. But,
Yeah.
I think actually in the case of the sheriff, when there is, when somebody's making comments like those that we got anonymously, he knows exactly who made the comments.
Right.
And
We all
he in
do.
fact told me that he knows where they came from.
Yeah.
So there's, I don't think that's the biggest concern. And also just to correct the record here, Mr. Real was not fired. He resigned in lieu of being terminated. So just so we don't put out, publicly something that's not accurate as far as that case goes.
Yeah, it was a forced termination.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. So what I will do.
Whatever happened, happened. It's
Yeah, I will get
beyond us.
together with Jim and Joseph and myself, and we can see if we can craft some recommendations and some type of way to decide if this is something we want to cover or not cover at the individual meetings. Yes, is that right?
I think it was just you and
So
Joseph.
a reference system for public comment that comes in,
Right.
and a check system that determines whether we've done something, whether we've done nothing,
Got it.
whether it's, whether we're not gonna even give it further consideration.
Got it.
All right, everybody fine with that item of new business? Good. We'll then go to updates from subcommittees. Any subcommittee reports? I said it was under this item that I briefly talk about the meeting with the sheriff. As you all know, I think it was at the August meeting that it was communicated to me that the sheriff wasn't particularly happy. And I made some inquiry into the sheriff, and really hadn't been a conversation between the sheriff and myself about his problems with the meeting, but at any rate, it resulted in an invitation from the sheriff given to myself, Vice Chair Strongin, and I don't know if staff was at that time invited, but at any rate, a meeting happened with the sheriff, with Under Sheriff Williamson, the sheriff's assistant, I don't recall her name, what's her name? Desiree, Vice Chair Strongin, Daniel, and Danette. And we met for about an hour, and you know, we're, I think, to some degree able to clear the air on some things. My sense is that any changes resulting from that meeting are on that side of the equation. The sheriff is the one who will determine under their agenda item what they want to report on. I think the plan is for them to indicate, as Danette sends the agenda to them, what they're going to address. Perhaps that's how this item got put there, I'm not sure. And then with respect to questions, requests for information that happen at our meetings, he made clear that certain things that they were just not going to comment on. And certainly with respect to stuff that may be pending litigation or may result in litigation, that sounds appropriate to me. And so I in that instance, turned to Daniel, and I think he would agree. And perhaps even in the course of a meeting, entreat that it is probably not appropriate for the sheriff to be commenting on. That doesn't mean that you all can't ask whatever you want to ask. It just means that the sheriff or the officer in his stead may not give a comment, may not answer the question.
So it's only pending litigation, he's not going to.
No, I don't want to say it's only
He's choosing
pending.
what he wants to comment.
Right.
Exactly, so transparency went.
Well, now.
Well, I
wait a minute,
think
no.
because we read
Hold on,
it
hold on,
out loud
hold
at
on.
a meeting and it was
Hear the whole report before you all, and so
Yeah.
that is only my little takeaway. I'll yield to Vice Chair Strong, and she participated in the meeting by Zoom, and that was kind of, I mean, we had a little laptop, and so there were difficulties with the Zoom. They must have had a free account or something, because she got kicked off at the Zoom. Was that the
40
40-minute
minutes?
limit or something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So
Right.
anyway, I don't know how much of the meeting she was able to take in, and what her thoughts are afterwards, so I'll yield to her.
Well, yeah, I didn't really get the impression that there's any difference in transparency. I think that just as the sheriff in the past has said, when we asked about the situation with Rael and the investigation of the taser incident, he said he could not comment on it because it was currently under investigation. And that doesn't mean that it was in litigation. It was just, an ongoing investigation and an employment matter. And commenting, at least at that point, was not appropriate. It wasn't inappropriate for us to ask and to follow up, but it would be inappropriate for the sheriff to comment. And I think those are my understanding is that that's mainly what the sheriff is going to be very careful about. And it's in part, due to the guidance from the legal counsel to the sheriff, Daniel.
Not necessarily, Diane. There's other people in the legal department. It's pretty big.
Right, right.
And And I just want to echo, matters of employment matters are usually a hot button issue when
Right,
it comes to
personnel
boards.
matters.
Personnel matters, yes. But in the county, and actually in government work, it's generally, while it's a hot button issue for boards, it is never recommended that it's discussed because they can result in litigation afterwards.
So what about his chokehold or non-chokehold or that? I
The
mean,
takedown.
thank you. The takedown. I mean, he
Is
hasn't commented at all on
is
that.
this directed to me or anybody specifically?
Anybody, I mean,
Well, I
the thing,
think what I said before is, I mean, you can ask what you want to ask, but don't expect a comment from him on that. And I think, and Daniel can certainly take that part of it. I think it's a matter that may turn into litigation. And at a minimum, it's a matter for which the sheriff, whether it's, you know, law enforcement certification or otherwise, may be held to account. And so I would expect that he's not going to comment on that as well. Is that your take as well, Daniel?
It is my take. He hasn't really, he's not mentioned any specific facts, and he's very smart about what can cause potential litigation. It's also important to note, I'm pretty sure the individual was arrested, and that person actually is going through criminal process, and he doesn't want to influence that either. So
Now, as Deb has said, he gave us I guess it was a witness report or something that he gave, and I guess he will stand on that statement. I keep couching this, I guess. If you want to ask him the question directly, it certainly doesn't have to come through SOARB. But my take is, in the course of a SOARB meeting, he's not going to be as forthcoming as, you know, he may have previously.
Probably figured that out the hard way.
Well, and you know, I think off record, I made the comment, well, I mean, the honeymoon may be over. And so I think, as with the last sheriff, there's, you know, I told him, man, it's so nice to occasionally be able to give the attaboy. Hey, way to go, man.
Yeah,
You guys saved this woman's life out there. Dr. Layton crafted a commendation. It's great. But when we get negative comment, we have responsibilities too. And so, you know,
okay,
we analyze it from that standpoint and ask the questions that we think are appropriate from our representative capacities too. Just don't expect that you're always going to get an answer.
I understand his position. I would like to say this now. I've mentioned this before. I worked at Bernalillo County. I worked with a lot of sheriffs and I knew even more. Okay, elected officials, they need to play things sometimes close to the vest, okay? Because of legal questions, but also because of their own reputations. Because it's not worked out yet. It's like the question of, was it a chokehold? We don't know that. That's what I said last time, is we don't know that yet. Was it a chokehold? So when we're talking about all these things in public, then we're exposing him, okay, to what can be construed as negative comments about his performance when we don't have the answers. So I understand his position that he doesn't want everything laid out on the table. It doesn't mean transparency is over. It just means it needs to
be played with.
Yeah, and that's some of the upfront stuff. You know, for instance, you look at our meeting minutes, and one of the things that came up in discussion was the sheriff on duty? And I mean, that may be a question of litigation. You know, Debbie Dodge and I are saying, well, isn't the sheriff always on duty? And Jim Stewart's saying, well, wait a minute, we had a policy in Texas that says if you're not in your uniform, you know, so I mean, I can see where it can go sideways very easily, as Dr. Layton is saying. So anyway, you know, some of this stuff we may not get answers to. Some of this stuff hits raw nerves, Elena, when you say underserved communities, we want to know what the demographics are in the academy, and well, you know, we're sorry if you get offended. You know, Elena feels that she has a responsibility to ask those questions.
Right.
You know, if you don't feel that it's appropriate to answer, don't answer. You know,
Right.
she'll dig and get the information
Anyway.
the way she gets it. And so, you know, I don't want you all to think that the sheriff is, you know, rubbing us the wrong. I don't think that's his intention. But, you know, for some reason at that August meeting, he felt that he had been encroached upon in terms of some of the information that we asked for. And so his bristles on the back of his neck went up, and you know, we had some pretty rough conversation, because I thought, you know, this is just an ordinary meeting. I don't know why he's, you know, acting the way that he's acting, but,
Right.
you know, he had an opportunity to air that.
Was that letter read aloud about that the person sent to Jim, that long letter about that she thought it was a
Yeah, was that
chokehold and
posted?
everything? Was it read aloud? I wasn't at that meeting. I was in Kenya. Was it
You
read
weren't at the
aloud in the
August
meeting?
meeting.
August or September?
August.
August. What
No
happened
letters
at
were
the-
read aloud. I think there was a comment that came in late, that caused the vice chair to say, well, you know, we shouldn't be discussing this. One, it came in late, and I don't think everybody has it. And I think she may have said something about, you know, and I don't know if this guy's talked to a lawyer. I sure wouldn't advise this person to be making, you know, these types of comments.
I thought it was
If I-
the letter that was sent directly to Jim.
That letter.
Well,
The letter from the woman about the
Okay.
whole thing.
No, I don't think it was read aloud.
Okay.
And it seems to me there was some further, I think that guy communicated to Jim and said, well, look, what are you all gonna do about my letter? And Jim said, I'll pass it on to the chair. And so I know that I got that. And certainly I wasn't gonna do anything. It's not my role to do anything individually. If we're gonna do anything, we're gonna do it as a board. I tried to make that clear to the sheriff too.
Yeah.
This isn't Tommy Jewell's deal. I'm merely the convener, and you all have the power to make decisions. So anyway, does that answer?
Yeah, I
Are
thought
you trying to
maybe
figure out-
that's what rubbed him the wrong way.
Well, I think a part of it, as Dr. Layton has a concern about, you know, I don't want it to appear that we're endorsing any of the stuff that comes here. I think that's his concern as well.
Yeah.
Right, that we're sensationalizing it. Okay, I want to repeat a remark, and I wish this wasn't in the minutes, but it will. Diane Dosal told us at lunch that the sheriff was worried about that letter being read into the minutes. That's what she said, that letter from that woman
We
about the
can
chokehold.
pull up the August meeting minutes,
But it
but I
wasn't.
don't think.
No, because I don't remember it at all.
Maybe it was just discussed or something.
Vice Chair, what do you have?
the letter was not read, and the letter went, I believe that the letter went from Commissioner Benson to Jim Stewart, and
Right.
Benson is his commissioner.
Right.
So that, and then Jim, I believe wrote back or emailed back directly to this woman rather than to his commissioner, that this was going to be on, you know, that this would be added to the agenda, just as a matter of courtesy. And so I think that's one of the things I wasn't at the August meeting, but I watched the video of it. And so that was one of the issues that was discussed, I think, of how, you know, what should happen if someone sends you a comment directly or makes a comment directly to you. And I guess, you know, there was some discussion that maybe that should then be sent either to Danette, you know, to send on to the county manager, and then it would come back to us through the normal channels, or, you know, there was some confusion about what should be done in that kind of situation.
Yeah, and we're a citizen board, guys. We don't need to make
Yeah.
this just tremendously complicated.
No.
We're not here as judges. We're not here as lawyers. You know, we're not even here as law enforcement. So, yeah, you all do, you know, what you think you need to do from a standpoint of being a citizen who's taken on the responsibility of being a conduit, essentially, for public comment into folk that are elected, and sometimes it is very difficult to comment on and to.
Right.
So, you know, and I think there was communication back to Jim, who has law enforcement background.
Right.
And he has the sense, well, maybe I'm getting a little too chummy, you know.
Yeah,
Maybe,
well, see,
maybe
he
I
got
don't
me.
I don't need to be in their, you know, staff meetings and
Right.
so, I mean, Jim can work that out.
Mhm.
I have not directed Jim to be in a staff meeting, and any access he has had to the sheriff, he has honed on his own accord.
Mhm.
And so if Jim, Elena, Debbie feel like, well, maybe I need to look at how I'm interacting. All I can tell you is, I really try to keep it arm's length. I told the sheriff, look, we haven't been to the bar together. I'm not at the gym trying to work out with you, and there's a reason for that.
Right.
The public sees that and says, well, you know, why even make a comment? These guys are just a part of the same old machinery.
Exactly.
So,
We're in his
you know,
pocket.
we're not always going to agree. We can disagree professionally without being disagreeable. And so that's kind of my takeaway. We'll keep the relationship professional, and, you know,
And I
we
think
can
we
be
have.
personable.
I think I don't think I have ever seen anybody act unprofessionally in this. I mean, we have differences of opinion, but that doesn't mean that any of us are unprofessional. And we, you know, as, you know, when Dr. Layden and I will disagree, we still have great respect for each other's, you know, way of coming at things, because I honor that this is not particularly the way I would approach it, but I really appreciate her voice in that.
Sure.
And I don't think anybody has been. And I guess that's what, I mean, there was a clear message when all of a sudden, every single time the sheriff is there and has been there from the moment he came on board. And there was a clear message when none of the sheriff's department was present, you know, the last time. And so I think that as much as I do think that there is a point, excuse me, of transparency where when you pull out all of your people and say, okay, we're not going to attend this meeting except for these little small snippets, that it does reduce the transparency. We went from full board, everybody being involved, to this very small piece.
And quite frankly, Elena, and I think Daniel was telling us, that it is difficult to reconcile complete transparency and responsible government. It is difficult to reconcile. And a part of what we observed at this meeting, because the sheriff wasn't there, let's face it, was the sheriff taking up for his folks. And so they kind of need refuge. They need to go back and say, man, I wish Elena would stop asking those hard questions of
about diversity.
Yeah, you know, they know that we care about diversity. You know, why do they keep harping on that? Well, I mean, you're gonna hear it. Get a thick skin. And you know, so some of that, you know, I've been in a position where I have to do things to say, look, folks, I'm supporting you. You know, you walked away from that meeting feeling mistreated. I feel you. I hear you. You know, and so I got the impression that there was some of that going on as well. That his folks felt a little upset. I don't know if it was under Sheriff Williamson or Jareño or even Major Anderson. I don't know who in particular, or even Diane, who in particular felt offended, but it seems to me somebody had that voice going to the sheriff, and he said, oh, okay, well, let's just reshape. Let's just refocus the way we approach this.
Right. Do you think the meeting turned out well with the sheriff?
I think so. Is that the impression that you had, Vice Chair Strongin?
Yeah. Did it turn out well?
Definitely. I think that it was significant that the sheriff asked for a meeting. You know, he could have just said, okay, that's it. You know, I'm done with you people. And that's not how it went. So I think that, you know, it went, both, you know, everybody was able to comfortably express their view.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a question. If the sheriff's office is going to indicate the topic, does Danette contact the sheriff's office to ask them what their
So in terms of
topic is?
process, that was discussed, the net Daniel, from a process standpoint is changing.
Okay, and, okay.
Answer
So,
that.
of course, I asked him for clarification how he wanted that done since I'm the one that's gonna be doing it, right? So should know how things should be done. So I will send you guys, like I always do, here's the draft agenda. If you have anything you want to add, take out, whatever. I will also be sending them one, and he's giving me specifically his undersheriffs and the major that will get it. They will formulate what they want to talk about on their topic. Put one together, and then I'll send that draft out to, everyone, so we
Okay.
all know what's kind of
Thank
going
you.
on. And so,
Now let me
yeah,
just interrupt,
and-
just so that we're clear. He's not gonna control our agenda, but
no,
What they're
he
talking
has, right, what they choose to talk about as is our
That's their
charge
number five,
under,
up to them.
under the charter. They are permitted, he is permitted public comment and the floor, the privilege of the floor, even though he is non-voting, in our meetings. And so whatever they want to say, and let's face it, frankly, it's been that way. I went back and looked at the tape of the August meeting. Okay, sheriff's comment, what do y'all want to say? Well, I mean, they got a couple of tough questions that caused them, I guess, to feel like we had formulated tough questions.
They felt blindsided by it or
Yeah,
something.
I don't know if it's blindsided. I know in one instance, the demographic information, I said, well, no, you gave the information. You
Right.
called and said, okay, we had this many, this. Okay, well, that's good information to have. I don't think anybody even knew you were upset, so
Yeah.
anyway,
I'll
no change here, change there.
I
and
just
that's
think,
handled.
and I also think he wanted to have it more for if he couldn't come or the undersheriffs, then they would have the appropriate person here to answer or have a topic for you guys. Because I think he also did see us coming into this at our last meeting, got to be at the governor's meeting, so. I mean,
Governor SOARB, I get it.
kind of give him a hard time,
Yeah.
but anyways.
No, they don't, they're short on
I
people. They don't need to be spending
think
a bunch of people.
He might not, his command staff is starting to get probably more comfortable and a little bit
Oh, yeah.
busier and probably being pulled in every direction. So instead of, if they can all come, great. If they can't, then they'll make sure that they get their topics done, and then that way we can still see what's going on.
And that'll give us a view of more discrete pieces too.
Yes.
Not just.
And he's just trying to, I've been in public safety, so you guys know, for 18 years of my career, up to 22, but.
You're only
coming up-
22?
22 years.
My goodness.
Public safety is very command. I mean, I work, it's command structure, so they're used to it goes this way and then they'll disseminate down what they need. And I think they're just trying to get that to a place where his command staff will get all the information, and from there they could be like, you sergeant,
Yeah.
you're up. Or this is who I'm gonna send because I can't make it. So I think they're just trying to get that done. I mean, this meeting, they weren't able to make it because they're all in training. This whole command staff had to go to training. So I think we're starting to get into that too, where we're not gonna always have be able to all be
Availability.
here,
Right.
or to always be able to be here. And I think September was that month with the governor sending out some executive orders and the state fair and that, so.
Okay, thank you.
So we're gonna just do it that way, and then I have my list for invites too.
Very good. Anything, any other questions or concerns on that?
So, as a for instance, the diversity piece that we just talked about and the question that was there, and then they came up with, here's some of the numbers, and the numbers were kind of low for a number of underserved communities. So there would be a follow-up question, but those people weren't representative, let's say, like now. So then, would we put those questions in the meeting, and then what, they would address them and then, or they would address them next time?
We can't tell you
or-
what they are gonna do.
Okay,
You do what you do.
okay,
If you
Well, I
looked at the numbers and made the determination that they're low,
right. which
you're
they are,
entitled to
yeah.
follow up.
Okay,
In
in a meeting,
Well, I don't
Just
think
put
it
it on
has to
the
be in a
agenda,
meeting. Yeah,
right?
you can ask
Yeah. for
that it be put on the agenda if you want.
Right, okay.
The point is, on the other side of that equation, you cannot have the expectation that they're gonna answer. Now, you may say, you know, I don't see any reason why you didn't answer that question.
Mhm.
But that's up to them.
Mhm.
That's not up to me,
Right, exactly.
you know, or Vice Chair Strongin. That's the determination that they've made. In some instances, I think what I'm saying is it's with purpose.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think we're here and that the ordinance contemplates that we're gonna put the sheriff in a position of getting sued, you know, over information that we're trying to seek. You know, oh, she has her hand up, okay. But I mean, you're free to ask the question, Vice Chair Trump.
I just wanted to make, to comment that I think it's always helpful also if anybody on this board wants the sheriff's office to comment on a particular topic or answer a particular question, try to give a heads up. I mean, you can always send an email to directly to the sheriff or, to the chair or to me, and we can forward it, or to Danette. But that way, people don't always feel comfortable being asked a question on the spot. And that, you kind of feel when someone asks you that you should know it, and maybe you don't know it at that point, or you don't know all the details. So I have always, when I had a specific question I wanted, I would send that in and I did that under the prior administration as well, and it was appreciated. So that's just something to think about. If you want a really full answer on something, it's probably better to let someone know that you're going to ask the question.
I agree.
And the flip side would be then when, Dorian or whoever it is gonna be represented, that they say, here's what we're gonna be talking about, so that we could prepare questions for whatever that topic might be.
Okay, can we, before we have a meeting, while the agenda is being drafted, does anybody have any questions for the sheriff at the next meeting? Is there something we can do for the heads up to be part of the process?
And what are you going to talk about at this next meeting
Right,
as
okay.
well? So,
Can we,
giving
we
I'm
them,
sorry,
that in.
what are you gonna talk about?
well, like
Directed to
Dorian
the-
was talking about, here's the program, I'm gonna talk about this.
Who's Dory?
Diane,
Oh,
sorry.
okay, all right.
I knew she was talking
Yeah. Thank you.
Let me know these things.
That's when you just slip him a little letter so he looks okay.
I just knew because she kept like looking at the screen.
So the meeting just went right past me, what happened? Okay.
I'm
So
sorry.
in other words, when Diane is going to be talking about or presenting something on topic,
Mhm.
then she can say, this is what on topic I'm going to be talking about. So we can prepare questions ahead of time as well.
Well, in the context of this agenda, when did we learn that,
Yeah.
that Diane was going to present on the behavioral?
At the meeting.
This meeting?
No, at the meeting with the sheriff.
Oh, okay.
He told us that all his command staff was gonna be in training, but he would get a hold of Diane to come and meet with us and give
And
us.
as a result of that,
We had that on
it
the
got
agenda.
published to us when?
When I sent it out to you
But not
guys.
the
let me
topic,
When it
know.
was
right?
final.
Yeah, the topic.
Yes, the behavioral health.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I mean,
that, so we had that amount of notice
Yeah.
with respect to that,
A week.
a week? Okay.
So behavioral health is pretty big, so anything that we would want to then ask, we would just go ahead and pose those questions ahead of time. Yeah.
I guess,
I
Debbie
mean, it
Strongin
sounds
is
like
saying
that's what
it's
we're
probably
kinda doing.
helpful if
Yeah.
you pose
Well,
them.
if it's about a controversial issue or a complicated issue or statistics or something, then, you may want to give someone a heads up. If it's just about something that's quite mundane, that's probably not the same. It's not as essential to do that, but never hurts to give people a heads up about what, questions. You don't have to do it. It just,
Courtesy, it's a courtesy, sure.
it's a courtesy, exactly.
And so I think we've probably beat that around enough. Anybody else need edification on the meeting with the sheriff? I'm grateful to Debbie and Annette and Daniel for accompanying me there. You know, there's strength in numbers. No. I,
Thank you.
you know, yeah. I think we did okay, and I think the sheriff's still okay, and so, you know, we just don't want to get too comfortable. I think people, as a result of that meeting, had to, I mean, as a result of the conflict, I had to go back and say, man, am I doing something? I don't always have a mirror to determine how I'm coming off, and sometimes I can get very relaxed and flip, and I think that's my coping mechanism with all that I do. So please don't hesitate to let me know if there is something that I'm doing that is keeping us from our assigned task.
So that doesn't qualify as a public meeting, the meeting that they have with the sheriff?
No.
It was 2 members.
Okay.
It was 2 members, and it was just your leadership. So anyway, and we certainly didn't get the agenda before. Anyway, you know, Debbie and I were talking. I said, man, I do not, you know, I don't know if it's just me, but I do not like being called to the principal's office, you know. So I was kind of up in arms when I went, but it had a relaxed feel when
Leadership roles carry these burdens.
Yeah, sometimes you just have to say, well, with all due respect,
Right.
that's your position, this is our position. That's fine. Next meeting, the 9th for
Work session,
work session,
1 o'clock.
17th for the monthly meeting, at which we plan to have adopted the annual report. I'll try to pin the forward so that you all have an opportunity to see what I might say.
And we're also
Suggestions.
meeting on the 9th, right?
9th for the work session,
Right.
17th for the meeting.
Daniel, I can't remember. No, we didn't record the work session.
With the sheriff?
No, with the last year, the work session. No, we didn't. We posted the agenda to say no public comments.
That's
and-
the Open Meetings Act part.
Yeah.
Recording's not so much.
Yeah, no, we didn't have to because there was no votes on that. Then it's put in there that we
Okay,
accept your public comments.
anything then before we adjourn? All right. Is there the need for a motion? If so,
I move that we, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I move that we go ahead and.
I second the motion to adjourn.
any opposition? Okay, we'll stand adjourned until our next meeting on the 9th of November and our next formal meeting on the 17th.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.